So many great new things are coming out of the woodworks for prog lately, and I can't help but talk about it, so let's just dive into a new one.
Embrace the endless eminences in the storm.
Rise of the Waterfowl by Farmhouse Odyssey. So Farmhouse Odyssey is a relatively new progressive rock conglomeration out of Arcata, California. So these guys are much more jazzy and folk tendencies within their music, but I've noticed that they've also included a lot more of that psychedelic hippie rock from the 60s and 70s. And blending all within this, we also have an organic indie approach as well. And I just love how organic everything feels on this album. And that's a really good way to really describe this album as a whole, is organic. You can tell these guys are very comfortable playing with one another and just how tight the musicianship is, even though it feels very organic and very kind of on the spot as well, like a very good jazz ensemble. One piece that's really reminiscent of this is Calligraphy, where it really never sits still and it constantly changes. Each change feels very off the cuff and almost an improv, while each one also feels very orchestrated and very, very well planned out. I love how the song really builds up within their sections, and once we hear that piano movement within it, it sounds really great, and that really washes over you. I also really like how the rhythm guitar is playing a lot more notes than their lead guitar, and I really appreciate when a band does this. It's almost like a very elaborate painting where the forefront is very simple, it's just like one piece, but that background really fills out that canvas, and that's what it really feels like here. The other song that really makes my ears perk is that of Brain's song, with that use of the mellotrons and the keyboards throughout the song, which really lays that groundwork for the atmosphere that creates just a soothing sound that's really hard not to take your breath away. With this, that overall effect with the guitars playing a really fun, almost a walkabout, keeps the mood really optimistic and really upbeat, which is a great contrast with that very minor toned synthesizers and keyboards. The two create a very interesting sound. Now this is more at the beginning of the album, so at the beginning the album hits really hard and I really enjoy that. Once we move into the second part, or even within the middle, this is where the album starts to falter a little bit in my opinion. I'm not really interested in that space relieved and ship work. They're great songs, don't get me wrong, but I feel as if they're wandering around the landscape a little too much and not really sure of where to go next. And that first half of the Speed Bump Catalyst suite is a bit of a slow build. It really takes its time getting ready. And for the most part, I can kind of forgive that, because the second half of that song, because it is the longer track on this album, really hits hard. In and around that 7-minute mark, kind of near the middle edge of that tune, we hear that piano work from Alex Epps, and this guy really knows his stuff, and this is where that song really starts to really change focus and get really good, where the root of the song is constant, yet the time signatures and the playing throughout it is what's always shifting and always changing. It's almost as if that first part of the song, where they're really wandering around, is all these individual pieces of fabric and you're not quite sure where it's going here. And once we get into this middle section, this is where that thread is being pulled together. I really love how they close the song up near the end of the song, and when it comes to that play out, it was a really smart way to end the track. For each next transition, it took something from the last. And unfortunately, I feel like the album's a little bit of a slow burn. It really doesn't pay off in the end. I feel like the album really made its mark in the first few songs and, had that really great piece within that Speed Bump song, but the remaining songs of Safe Passage and From the Night are fine, but it really harkens back to that soft jazz that you'd hear more in the background as opposed to something that you'd hear front and center. So overall, I'd have to say this is a great piece and a great album. and one that I've been actually coming back to time and time again as background music for when I'm reading or when I'm prepping for different things. Brain Song and Calligraphy are definitely two gems on this album, and one that you do need to listen to. And Speed Bump Catalyst is a great track once you get through that first half of the piece. The album as a whole really doesn't leave me awestruck at any time, and I feel like it's one of those albums that is a good time while you're in it, but once it ends, you're kind of looking for the next treat, or you're thinking back to those first couple of songs at the beginning. I have to say, stream this with headphones, as it is a worthwhile listen, and one that I would recommend if you're in that vein of prog within that more jazzy, that more indie, that more organic take on stuff. And so that's about it. So what did you guys think about Farmhouse Odyssey's The Rise of the Waterfowl? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Once you have a listen, let me know what you thought by commenting below. And thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.
Senselessness, break the ball a second wind. A gust to blow the dust and rust off my soul.